established that certainly this is not a close call when it comes to whether or not this is a triable case. I mean, there's the prosecution, the evidence is shown here that they cannot prove this beyond a reasonable doubt. I mean, there's absolutely no evidence to suggest from anybody who's in law enforcement or who's an expert in the field that this wasn't justified under the circumstances. And we had a lot of back and forth with the judge, and that's because the state of law in Michigan is really up in the air when it comes to whether or not a police officer in this situation is committing a crime. And for whatever reason, and everybody would have their opinion on whether or not why Michigan didn't pass a statute, there's no statute. So we're left with common law. And that's why you saw that back and forth between the judge and I, and Mr. Becker as well. We're doing what lawyers frankly used to do many years ago, is you look at the case law and you interpret what does it mean. And there's no, I don't know that I've seen an officer who is making a lawful arrest while on duty be charged with murder in the state of Michigan. I think it's unprecedented.
How can you justify, though, a shot in the back of the head? I mean, I think isn't that what it comes down to?
Well, the rule isn't if you shoot them in the back of the head, it's murder, but if you shoot them in the front of the head, it's not. There is absolutely no authority for the fact that where you shoot them matters when it comes to deadly force. They make a decision, a reasonable officer under the circumstances makes a decision to use deadly force. And I'm talking about the civil standard here, when you can sue somebody. So if this were a civil case, which it's not, he's been charged with murder, you know, the defense and the plaintiff would be arguing over whether or not any officer, not just a reasonable, any officer would think this was unjustified. In other words, if you can find an officer who thinks this is reasonable, then it's justified. So I know it's upsetting to people that he got shot back in the head. It's upsetting to watch. Nobody wants to see someone die on camera. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter once he makes the decision to use deadly force where you shoot him. And the reason is, you know, if you shot him in the back or the spine, he could have died later, or you could have shot him in the head and he might not have died. So where the deadly force goes doesn't matter. I mean, you heard some testimony about the use of deadly force, and they say usually you shoot for center mass. Well, in this situation, it's what's in front of you. And I mean, the pictures are pretty clear.
But wouldn't that be, I mean,